All right, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, call I'm La, Alahayna wa Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai Bahashim Harakak Wadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and others of great millstone who want to teach well, and a hearty Shalom to the elect. I'm trying to make this quick as possible because my phone is at 8%, but there's going to be a famine here in the land, man. All right, there's going to be a famine here in America, okay? All right. There's a video I want to show you to correlate with what I'm saying, but I want to get a scripture. This is Psalms 105 and 11. The point is not until 16, but this is the Lord bringing us into the land, okay? This is Psalms 105 and 11, saying unto thee, I will give the land of Canaan the lot of your inheritance. When they were but a few men in number, yea, very few, and strangers in it, when they went from one nation to another, from one kingdom to another people, he suffered no man to do them wrong. Yet he reproved kings for their sake. This is what the Lord has done for Israel, saying, touch not mine anointed, and do my prophets no harm. Moreover, he called a famine upon the land, and he brake the whole staff of bread. Let's read that in the NLT. He called for a famine on the land of Canaan, cutting off its food supply. The Lord, the point of reading this is the Lord is cutting off this food supply, okay? All right, let's look at this word famine right quick. The word for famine is rahab. It says famine, hunger. All right, let's look up the word hunger. It does that. Okay, famine is a scarcity of food, extreme scarcity of food, okay? Let's look up the word hunger. All right, hunger. A feeling of discomfort or weakness caused by a lack of food, coupled with the desire to eat. Okay? A feeling of discomfort or weakness. All right? That's what you're going to be going through during the famine. All right? That discomfort or weakness is going to have people, robbing, looting, and stealing. Okay? But let's look at this right quick.
My name is Russell Baining. My family and I farm right south of San Antonio.
It says farmers warn of food price spikes as war drives up costs. People ain't able to pay for food and shit. People barely can do it now. All right? Listen to what this man says.
Antonio, we're buying nitrogen right now. And it's about 40. My name is Russell Baining. My family and I farm right south of San Antonio. We're buying nitrogen right now. And it's about 40% higher than it was, 2 or 3 months ago. But before
the nitrogen is 40% higher than it was a few months ago.
Or the conflict, let's just say that.
I'm Lance Lillibridge from Benton County, Iowa. We booked most of our fertilizer before the conflict in Iran. However, some of it we did not because it was too expensive. We're probably going to go
fertilizer too expensive
without that particular nutrient on our crop this year. A lot of other farmers are doing the same thing.
My name is Matt Frost.
If they don't put the fertilizer on the crop, how do you think that'll affect the food? I'm not sure. Just a thought process, a question.
Have a crop and livestock operation in Michigan. In January, we were looking at nitrogen for about $350 a ton. Today, that
$350 a ton for nitrogen, but the price has changed.
Number is bouncing around $600.
Steve Turner, I'm
$600 for a ton of nitrogen. It's gonna get crazy out here with these food prices, man. All right.
I'm a farmer in northwest Illinois, located about 40 miles northwest of Springfield. We've got a lot of our inputs paid for, but I'm afraid we're going to be looking at some elevated prices for a while.
There's people saying, well, there's 80% of the fertilizer has already been purchased for this year's crop. And we actually heard that figure from USDA. Even if 80% is pre-purchased and the other 20% goes up 50% or more, it can still be a pretty good hit for you.
The reality is we're not breaking even. We didn't break even the last 2 years.
With the increases in the input prices, there are no margins. They appear to be zero at this point.
It's just not the fertilizer; it's going to be the fuel into this thing. And I know everybody's experiencing that right now with the elevated fuel prices.
I always say if gas and diesel go up, if oil goes up, everything else is going to follow in some form or fashion.
As fuel becomes
Fuel and gas go up, the food gonna go up, because guess what? The prices of the food for the companies to get the food to the stores for you to buy is gonna cost them more to make it travel. And then with the lack of nutrients and nitrogen is also going to make the cost of the food to go up because they're paying more for the nitrogen and the fertilizer, which is telling you through these individuals that there's less than, okay. But on top of that, this is what is happening to the white man's kingdom, okay.
expensive and it's hard to produce that crop, or costs more to produce and transport that crop. It all kind of equates to higher prices.
So much of growing a crop is out of our control, and we can only manage certain things. When the prices of these inputs become so high, what do we do? I don't know. And I don't think anybody's got a wonderful answer to it.
Well, when it comes to policy, I mean, frustration might be a little bit of a strong word. There's maybe anxiety, even before the conflict. Let's be honest about it. Tariffs have caused the price of our inputs to increase. If you want to look at it from the 30,000-foot view, agriculture pretty much still trusts this administration. That's still what I hear.
When you look at the Strait of Hormuz,
The people don't even trust the government. All right, the farmers are losing money. There was a video with this lady. She was reading off all the things that the government is cutting funding from to establish a 1 trillion war budget. Okay, and a lot of farmer subsidies, a lot of farming subsidies or help for the farmers were mentioned in her video. All right.
got to have shipments out of there. And I think anything, whether it's our U.S. Navy or whatever it is, to stabilize that region to get shipments out of there, because we were already fighting record inflation and a price squeeze already. And this is just, more on it right there.
For more on the impact of this fertilizer shortage, we turn now to Caitlin Welsh. She's the director of the Global Food and Water Security Program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Welcome back to the program. It's good to have you.
All right, I'm going to let her talk here in a minute, but I want to get some scriptures. This is Jeremiah chapter 14. The Lord's going to cause a famine in the land, and people going to die, all right? This is what the Lord did to Israel back in the day. All right, the Lord gonna do the same thing to you so-called Negro, Latinos, and Native American Indians now. This is Jeremiah 14:11. It says here, "Then said Yahweh unto me, Pray not for this people for their good. When they fast, I will not hear their cry, and when they offer burnt offerings and an oblation, I will not accept them. But I will consume them by the sword and by the famine and by the pestilence." Then said I, Yahweh power, behold, the prophets say unto them, Ye shall not see sword, neither shall ye have famine, but I will give you assured peace in this place. All right, that's what these damn church pastors is saying. That's what all these false Hebrew Israelite camps are saying. All right. Then said Yahweh unto me, The prophets prophesy lies in my name. I sent them not, neither have I commanded them, neither spake unto them. They prophesy unto you a false vision, a divination, a thing of naught, and a deceit of their heart. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh concerning the prophets that prophesy in my name, and I sent them not. Yet they say, Sword and famine shall not be in this land. By sword and famine shall those prophets be consumed. And the people to whom they prophesy shall be cast in the streets of Jerusalem because of the famine and the sword, and they shall have none to bury them, their wives, nor their sons, nor their daughters, for I will pour their wickedness upon them. All right, this is what the Lord is going to do to Jake. Jake is going to be cast out in the streets of America because they cannot eat. All right. I'm going to go back to that.
Thanks for having me.
So the Strait of Hormuz has been closed now for longer than a month. How critical is it for global fertilizer supply?
Very critical, and for a number of reasons. First of all, because the Gulf is responsible for production of a significant amount of major fertilizer types, being the top exporter of some major types of nitrogen fertilizer and phosphate fertilizer. The Gulf is also responsible for significant proportions of exports of inputs to fertilizers as well, liquefied natural gas and sulfur. And combined, both the restrictions on exports to fertilizer and inputs to fertilizer has caused the price spikes we just heard about.
We'll say more about that.
Exports to fertilizer, and the things that I believe she was saying, the things that make fertilizer and the things that come of it because of the imported exports in that Gulf of the area, the Gulf of whatever Gulf that's going on, whatever Gulf she is mentioning, is causing the prices to go up.
What has it meant for prices and availability?
Yeah, the prices of all fertilizers are increasing, whether or not they're exported from the Gulf. And the prices of nitrogen-based fertilizer, particularly, like some of the ones we just heard the farmers reference. One type of nitrogen fertilizer has increased by 45 to 50% month on month. And what that means for farmers right now, as you mentioned in the spring planting season, a lot of farmers are faced with high prices. Some farmers, in fact, most farmers in the United States had already secured the fertilizer they needed for this planting season beforehand, but those who didn't, who needed to purchase fertilizer on global markets and were exposed to those high prices. When that happens, farmers have to make choices. They plant less crops, they apply less fertilizer, or they switch the crops that they plant. All of those have long-term effects.
Look at that. They don't plant, or they switch them out, and then she said it has long-term effect. The longest term effect is going to be you people out here starving because you can't work, jobs are being cut, the money that you paying taxes on is going to aid other countries, okay, or aid a war, all right. You can't hold and keep relationships with people inside or outside your family, so there's not going to be any help, or if there is, it's going to be limited, okay, because people got to look out for themselves, all right. It's going to be crazy out here, man.
What are the biggest risks if this disruption continues?
So biggest risks come in two categories. One is risks from high fertilizer prices, and those risks change depending on the time horizon of this war. The nature of the countries affected and how they're affected changes. When you look at the countries that were importers of the products that I mentioned, the final fertilizer products and the inputs to fertilizers, those include some of the world's major agricultural producers and exporters. So potentially many really important countries on ag markets could be affected. Alongside a lot of countries that are food insecure could also be affected. But the other category of impacts comes actually through a different channel, which is high energy prices. And it's actually through high energy prices that we're expecting to see high food prices in the short term in the U.S. and around the world.
If the strait were to reopen tomorrow, how quickly could the supply recover?
Weeks to months, likely.
Really? Months?
Mainly because liquefied natural gas is one of the most important inputs to nitrogen fertilizer. And what we've seen are intentional attacks on LNG production facilities. So the duration of time it takes to get those facilities back online is going to affect how long it's going to take to get fertilizer prices back to normal.
So the fertilizer is made from a certain gas. Those facilities are being attacked, which is also a key input to the prices going up for the fertilizer, because the concoction of making it is being limited. It's being limited through the acts and attacks of war. All right. There was another scripture. Oh yeah, this is Jeremiah 15 and 1. It says, Then Yahweh said to me, even if Moses and Samuel stood before me pleading for these people, I would not help them. Away with them, get them out of my sight. Oh, Salaki, I was reading it in the NLT. Let me read it in the KJV. It says, this is Jeremiah 15 and 1. Then said Yahweh unto me, though Moses and Samuel stood before me, yet my mind could not be toward this people. Cast them out of my sight and let them go forth. And it shall come to pass, if they say unto thee, whither shall we go forth? Then shalt thou say to them, Thus saith Yahweh, such as for death to death, and such as for the sword to the sword, and such as for famine to the famine, and such as for the captivity to the captivity. Our people, we in captivity already, right? People going to be getting killed by the sword. Death is going to come upon people in different ways, all right? And famine, okay? Uncomfortable hunger, that's going to get you up off your ass to probably go stealing and killing and looting and robbing, okay? All right, this is Second Ezra chapter 15 at verse 14. It says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh." Famine can be used and looked at as a killing instrument, okay? Because that's what a sword is, especially in a orchestrated famine, right? "And one people shall stand and fight up against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able to. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, and houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their house with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation." This is what the Lord is bringing to this place, okay? All right, and the only way you're going to escape it is if you are the Lord's elect, man. All right, but Lord Williams edified. There's a famine on the way. On to the next one. Shalom.